Hermione's Secret, Chapter 21. Shocking business, shocking. Miracle, none of them died. Never heard the like. By thunder. It was lucky you were there, Snape. Thank you, Minister. Order Merlin second class, I'd say. First class, if I can wrangle it. Thank you very much indeed, Minister. Nasty cut you got there. Black's work, I suppose? As a matter of fact, it was Potter, Weasley, and Granger, Minister. No! Black had bewitched them. I saw it immediately. A confundus charm. To judge by their behavior, they seemed to think he was innocent. There was possible for their actions. On the other hand, their inference might have permitted Black to escape. They obviously thought they were going to catch Black single-handed, but they've got away with a great deal before now. I'm afraid it's given them a rather high opinion of themselves. And of course, Potter has always been allowed to extraordinary amount of license by the headmaster. Ah, well, Snape, Harry Potter, you know, we've all got a bit of blind spot where he's concerned. And yet, it is good for him to be given so much special treatment. Personally, I try to treat him like any other student, and any other student would be suspended, at the very least, for leading his friends into such danger. Consider, Minister, against all school rules. After all the precautions put in place for his protection, out of bounds at night, consorting with a werewolf and a murderer, and I have reason to believe he has been visiting Hogsmeade illegally, too. Well, well, we shall see, Snape, we shall see. The boy that undoubtedly been foolish. Harry lay listening with his eyes shut tight. He felt very groggy, and the words he was hearing seemed to be traveling very slowly from his ears to his brain, so that it was difficult to understand. His limbs felt like lead, his eyelids too heavy to lift. He wanted to lie here, on this comfortable bed forever. What amazes me most is the behavior of the Dementors. You really have no idea what made them retreat, Snape? No, Minister. By the time I had come around, they were heading back to their positions at the entrances. Extraordinary. And yet Black and Harry and the girl, all unconscious by the time I reached them. I bound and gagged Black naturally, conjured stretches, and brought them all straight back to the castle. There was a pause. Harry's brain seemed to be moving a little faster, as it did, and the gnawing sensation grew in the pit of his stomach. Everything was slightly blurred. Someone had removed his glasses. He was lying in the dark hospital wing. At the very end of the ward, he could make out Madame Pomfrey with her back to him, bending over a bed. Harry squinted. Ron's red hair was visible beneath Madame Pomfrey's arm. Harry moved his head over on the pillow in the bed. To his right lay Hermione. Moonlight was falling across her bed. Her eyes were open too. She looked petrified, and when she saw that Harry was awake, pressed a finger to her lips, then pointed to the hospital wing door. It was ajar, and the voices of Cornelius Fudge and Snape were coming through from the corridor outside. Madame Pomfrey now came walking briskly up the dark ward to Harry's bed. He turned to look at her. She was carrying the largest block of chocolate he had ever seen in his life. It looked like a small boulder. "Ah, you're awake," she said briskly. She placed the chocolate on Harry's bedside table and began breaking it apart with a small hammer. "How's Ron?" said Harry and Hermione together. "He'll live," said Madame Pomfrey grimly. "As for you two, you'll be staying here till I'm satisfied. Potter, what do you think you're doing?" Harry was sitting up, putting his glasses back on and picking up his wand. "I need to see the headmaster," he said. "Potter," said Madame Pomfrey soothingly, "it's all right. They've got Black. He's locked away upstairs. The Dementors will be forming the kiss any moment now. What? Harry jumped up out of his bed. Hermione had done the same, but his shout had been heard by the corridor outside. Next second, Cornelius, Fudge, and Snape entered the ward. Harry Potter, what's this? Said Fudge, looking agitated. You should be in bed. Has he had any chocolate? Yes, Madame Pomfrey. Minister, listen, Harry said. Sirius Black is innocent. Peter Pettigrew faked his own death. We saw him tonight. You can't let them Dementors do that to Sirius. But Fudge was shaking his head with a small smile on his face. Harry, you're very confused. You've been through a dreadful ordeal. He'd lie back down. Now you've got everything under control. You haven't! Harry yelled. You've got the wrong man! Minister, listen, please, Hermione said, and she hurried to Harry's side, who was imploring into Fudge's face. I saw him, too. It was Ron's rat. He's an Animagus, Pettigrew. And you see, Minister, said Snape, confounded both of them. Black's done a very good job on them. We're not confounded, Harry roared. Minister, Professor, said Madame Pomfrey angrily, I must insist that you leave. Potter isn't my patient and should not be distressed. I'm not distressed. I'm trying to tell them what happened, Harry said furiously. If they just listen. But Madame Pomfrey suddenly stuffed a large piece of chocolate into Harry's mouth. He choked, and he seized the opportunity to force him back into bed. Now, please, Minister, these children need care. Please leave. The door opened again. It was Dumbledore. Harry swallowed his mouthful of chocolate with a great deal of difficulty, and again, Professor Dumbledore, Sirius Black, for heaven's sake, said Madame Pomfrey hysterically. Is this hospital wing or not? Headmaster, I must insist. My apologies, Poppy, but I need a word with Mr. Potter and Miss Granger, said Dumbledore calmly. I have just been talking to Sirius Black. I suppose he told you the same fairy tale he's planted in Potter's mind, spat Snape. Something about a rat and Pettigrew being alive? That indeed is Black's story, said Dumbledore, surveying Snape closely through his half-moon glasses. And does my evidence count for nothing? Snarled Snape. Peter Pettigrew was not in the Shrieking Shack, nor did I see any sign of him on the grounds. That was because you were knocked out, Professor, Hermione said earnestly. You didn't arrive in time to hear. Miss Granger, you hold your tongue. Now, Snape, said Fudge, startled. The young lady is disturbed in her mind. We must make allowances. I would not like to speak to Harry and Hermione alone, said Dumbledore abruptly. Cornelius, Service, Poppy, please leave. Headmaster, sputtered Madame Pomfrey. They need treatment. They need rest. This cannot wait, Professor Dumbledore said. I must insist. Madame Pomfrey pursed her lips and strode away into her office at the end of the ward, slamming the door behind her. Fudge consulted a large gold pocket watch that he had dangled from his waistband. The Dementors should be arriving now, he said. I'll go meet Dumbledore. I'll see you upstairs. I'll go meet them, Dumbledore. I'll see you upstairs. He crossed the door and held it open for Snape, but Snape hadn't moved. You surely don't believe a word of Black's story, Snape whispered, his eyes fixed on Dumbledore's face. I wish to speak to Harry and Hermione alone, Dumbledore repeated. Snape took a step towards Dumbledore. Sirius Black showed he was capable of murder at the age of 16, he breathed. You haven't forgotten that, Headmaster. You haven't forgotten that he once tried to kill me. My memory is as good as ever, Service, said Dumbledore quietly. Snape turned on his heel and marched through the door. Fudge was still holding it close behind them, and Dumbledore turned to Harry and Hermione. They both burst into speech at the same time. Professor Black is telling the truth. We saw Peter Pettigrew. He escaped when Professor Lupin turned into a werewolf. He's a rat. Pettigrew's finger, is cut off. Pettigrew attacked Ron. It wasn't Sirius. But Dumbledore held up his hand in the flood of explanations. It's your turn to listen, and I beg you will not interrupt me, because there's very little time, he said quietly. There is not a shred of proof to support Black's story, except your word. And the word of two 13-year-old wizards is not to convince anybody. A street full of eyewitnesses swore they saw Sirius murder Pettigrew. I myself gave evidence to the ministry that Sirius had been the Potter's secret keeper. Professor Lupin can tell you, Harry said, unable to stop himself. Professor Lupin is currently deep in the forest, unable to tell anyone anything. By the time he is human again, it will be too late. Sirius will be worse than dead. I might add, werewolves are so mistrusted by most of our kind that his support will count for very little. But the fact that he and Sirius are old friends. But, listen to me, Harry. It's too late, do you understand me? You must see that Professor Snape's version of events is far more convincing than yours. He hates Sirius, Hermione said desperately. All because of his stupid trick Sirius played on him. Sirius has not acted like an innocent man. The attack on the fat lady, entering Gryffindor Tower with a knife, without Pettigrew, alive or dead. We have no chance of overturning Sirius's sentence. But you believe us? Yes, I do, said Dumbledore quietly, but I have no power to make other men see the truth, to overrule the Minister of Magic. Harry stared up at the grave face and felt as though the ground beneath him were falling sharply away. He had grown used to this idea that Dumbledore could solve anything. He had expected Dumbledore to pull some amazing solution out of the air. But no, the last hope was gone. What we need, said Dumbledore slowly, and the light blue eyes moving from Harry to Hermione, is more time. But, Hermione began, and her eyes became very round. Oh, now pay attention, said Dumbledore, speaking very low and very clearly. Sirius Black is locked in Professor Flitwick's office on the 7th floor. 13th window from the right of the West Tower. If all goes well, you will be able to save more than one innocent life tonight. But remember, this both of you. You must not be seen. Miss Granger, you know the law. You know what's at stake. You must not be seen. Harry didn't have a clue what was going on. Dumbledore turned his heel and looked back, and he reached the door. I'm going to lock you in. Is it? It is, consulted his watch. 5 minutes to midnight, Miss Granger. 3 turns should do it. Good luck. Good luck, Harry repeated as the door closed behind him.